Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Good evening. I hope you guys are all safe and healthy. As you all know, our guest speaker for today is Ms. Aneeska Sohal. She is the presenter and founder of the podcast series All Things Mental Health. She was the president of the University of York Student Minds and the recipient of the Volunteer Recognition Award. She is interested in helping combat the taboo surrounding the students' mental health and normalizing the idea that we all have on mental health and we need to talk about it. She aims to achieve all of this in fun, unique ways such as dance, music, illustrations, community work, sports, etc. Uh, Ma'am, so much again for taking time out of your busy schedule for this. Your podcast is a wonderful initiative. Let me begin by saying that, and we are pretty sure it has impacted student lives all over the world positively and is continuing to do so.
No, thank you so much. Like I was saying, thank you for having me. And it's lovely to have some focused time to talk to you and also mark Mental Health Awareness Week together through a great conversation. So thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, so just to familiarize everyone with the way the talk will proceed, based on ma'am's knowledge and experience, we have framed a set of questions that we'll be asking her. Once we are done with those questions, we'll be moving ahead with an audience interaction session where you can all ask questions to Aneeska ma'am through the chat box. Ma'am, if you're okay with it, we shall begin with the questions.
Let's go. Sounds good.
Uh, okay, so the first question that I have for you, we often find students adopting to a lifestyle influenced by hustle culture and the constant pressure to stay productive. How do you think this affects their mental health and what can be done about this?
I think this is a big modern day problem, actually, where you whether you're a student or not, there's this. I speak about this with my friends all the time, where it seems like it's all about trying to be productive all the time and really kind of have like a hustle, like you were saying, and develop that. And actually, as it's really important to work out what you're passionate about and really, go with that and find different ways to explore it, whether that's creatively or through perhaps a degree program you're doing for a job you really want or whatever it might be. It can, like you said, it can cause mental health strains, and it can cause a real burnout as well, which is a big problem. I think it's ways of remembering underneath it all that, as cliche as it might sound, but it is something I say to myself every day, and it's very productive, I find, is reminding yourself you're a human being and not a robot. And I think it's especially in pandemic time, you have so much time at your disposal. You can't do as much as you normally would. So you go, okay, I have all this time. So I can have back-to-back meetings, back-to-back classes, constantly doing something different. And actually that pace is not something that is good, because a friend of mine actually a few weeks ago, he said to me, one thing I've been missing is that kind of calm transitional time you have from going to A to B. So, okay, you're going from here, Jello, I'm going this way, and you can have a bit of a breather in between stuff, speak to your friend, get some chai, You can't do that in this pandemic time. So where is that time to sort of relax your head? So I think there's sort of two things here that we have to do. One is, okay, in the short term, while we're still living in this environment, we have to try and build in that time for ourselves and go, okay, I'm not a robot. I can't function like this. And what I should try and do is maybe between my different tasks, I have like 15 minutes, or I take out some time, I do something different, and then I move on to the next thing. And instead of going so quickly that it's just not a healthy pace, because it's not good, it's not helping. And the other thing is sort of then thinking in the long term, okay, how can I then work out for myself, what is it that I'm passionate about and want to spend my time growing in. So like we were saying, what kind of hustle do you want to sort of develop, where what's the aim of it, what are you hoping to do, and trying to strip back all the superficiality of that. It's not about trying to put through like CEO vibes on your Instagram and all this stuff. No, we don't need that. You need to just find out what it is you're interested in doing, and through doing that, then formulating a structure that is very human and allows you to have days where you do nothing. You don't hustle that day, you do absolutely nothing. And normally on a Saturday, which isn't the case today because I was away a little bit earlier this week, so I'm obviously different. But on a normal Saturday, I do this thing where I put my brain in the freezer on a Saturday. So I don't see anyone, I don't do any work. I'll do a bit of reading, I'll sleep, I'll catch up on my sleep. It's the best day. And you just recharge and you recycle your system, because like we said, you're not a robot. So you have to find that time to do that for yourself. So yeah.
Okay, let's move ahead with the next question. Growing up, the most common phrase said by parents is take care, stay safe, don't hurt yourself, but that often relates to the physical aspect and very rarely do they indicate one's mental being. Is there something that you could or you should be doing or can be done in instilling the concept of mental health and the need to take care of it, especially from a young age?
Sure. So what I'm going to say now actually draws off of one of the episodes in the podcast. So to hear it probably more eloquently and explained to you in real nice detail, go check it out. It's the Instagram is at allthings.mentalhealth, and you get to series 2. At episode 1, we talked to this woman called Natasha Devon. She's this global activist, writer, who looks at mental health and goes into schools internationally to give them an education on mental health that isn't already included in their school. So she tries to bridge that gap that a school might need. And we had this whole episode about navigating your mental health from a young age. And what we talk about is that one thing that I'm trying to do through these series as well is that, it doesn't have to be something very patronizing with mental health, like, oh, we all need to get some chai and sit with Ma and it'll be fine. We don't need that. We need, we know we could do that. We need someone to tell us more authentically what can we do, like what actually is there. And it affects everyone. It's like a normal part and parcel of everyday life. The reason I work in this sector is because I realized a few years ago, your mental health underpins everything that you do. So then why would I want to work anywhere else? Because it's the basis for your work, your relationships, your friends, whatever it might be, it's your basis. So coming back to your question then, what we need to do then from an early age is try to work out what are the pillars of support that you might have in your life that subconsciously help you already with your mental health, but you might not be aware of them. I don't think it's all about go out and work out all the self-care activities they say to you on Instagram. Let me go and, do some coloring. Great. That might help for some person, but it's not going to help everyone. We're not all the same. So the best thing to do is something I did a few years ago, was I was like, okay, what are the things that I turn to every day? What are my interests? What do I do? So maybe for you, that's cricket, maybe it's singing, maybe it's, you like to go running, whatever it might be you like to do. You play the guitar, who knows, right? So those things, they already ground your mental health. You are not aware of them, but you already turn to them and it breaks up your day. And consequently, it helps you. And it might be a really weird way of helping you. Maybe when you go to play cricket, it's the team aspect of it, being with people, talking to them. It helps you and all those things. So I think it's about going, okay, what are those things for me that I already have in my life? And they could also involve things that have nothing to do with other people. So maybe it's something creative, like we said, like singing or whatever. Maybe it's something team related, like we said as well. Maybe it also has some links to family and friends. Certain people really help you and speaking to them and all those things. So I think it's consciously then being aware of what those things are for you. And as you move into chapters of change in your life, from university to a job to whatever it is, you are aware of what those things are and they can help you in those transitions. Because the problems we have is you just get used to them. They're just kind of there. And then you go to your master's place or you go to your whatever you're doing, you move house or something, and you're like, well, what happened? Where did my stuff go? Because you didn't realize that it was something that was helping you so much. So it's bringing an awareness back in, and it's something you can make it really fun, like simple activity, put some Ghani on and just like brainstorm what the different things are that you like to do. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you make an active effort to do them. And then you take that little list with you to the next place and you just be aware. These are the things that help me. Is when we start dropping those things, then you have problems because you're just constantly working or constantly doing something and you've forgotten, what are these things for me?
Okay, so basically you need to keep your life experiences together, and no matter how old you get, you just get back to them whenever you're feeling exhausted, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's normalizing it, like that first series that's on the Instagram and the Spotify and stuff.
Mm.
is I spoke to different students about what are their interests and outlets that help them. It was great. Their mix was hilarious. It was some stuff I hadn't even thought about, that you could say anything, but it's great because it might help someone else. There was one guy, he was telling me that he used to work in a radio, like a radio station, and the radio station used to be based in a hospital. So what he had to do, I didn't even know this was a thing, so this was great to hear about. He had to go into the wards of the hospital and get song recommendations from the guests, the patients, sorry, and then they become like a guest on this show. So he'd play their song, then he'd go and talk to them again in the ward. He loved it. He goes, this helps me so much with my mental health because I'm being useful and I'm doing something to create something for these people. There's a community, there's some love and warmth here, and that helps me. So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be some like, I must journal, or I must, they say this helps you. Nay, that helps that person. It might not help you, which is fine.
Okay, even I didn't know that. Thanks for telling us that. So we can find pleasure in small things, right? Okay, great. Uh, okay, let's move on to the next question now. As a friend or as a family member, as a colleague, the most painful thing is to see someone you care about go through something difficult and not know how to help them. Is there a way to handle such situations or to extend support?
This is a good one. I think there are two parts to this answer. The first one is knowing what support is there to be able to tell them about it. So you should never force someone to, go and seek support. If you should of course talk to them about it. If it starts to get serious, then of course sometimes you can always ring those services that might be there and tell them about the situation you have. I have this friend, this is happening. What do I do? And they can give you advice as well. It's about going to the right people for that professional advice. I'm not a counselor. I'm a student. I'm a trustee for the student mental health charity, Student Minds. So I've been trained a bit more in that, but you have to be aware of who you are in that position. I'm not somebody who can start saying to you, this thing about therapy, because that's not what I do. So what you do is you should be aware wherever you are, let's say you're in an institution. So like you guys, you're in a university, you're in an institution, you're aware of what the support services are there. Who is it? Is there some kind of student support? Is there something, do they have some pastoral care that you know about and stuff like that? So that's the other thing. The next thing is, like you were saying, what can you then do more directly rather than just divert them to actual more professional support? And that professional support can also help you support them. So that's also a good thing to reach out to for you. But the other thing I think is the main thing I think is listening, is actually letting them just talk to you, and you create that open space to be able to do that. And if they want to talk to you, they know they can. And I think, you should never, some people, it takes time for them to want to open up about things. Some people don't want to ever, and everyone's different. But it's about saying to somebody, even if, you say to your friend, I'm always here if you want to speak to me, and they don't want to say anything. If they're still struggling, you should always keep every now and then letting them know in different ways that you are there. And they might come and talk to you at some point, but they also know that you are there. Even if they don't talk to you, they know, oh, this person is here if I want to speak to them. And that might, create more comfort in their own head than you actually know. The other thing is remembering, you can't change another person. You can support them and you can help them, but you should never worry about, I need to fix this person, because it's not about that. The way I use a lot of visual things to help me. I'm one of my masters is actually specialized in architecture. So this is kind of what this is all about. So what I kind of see is when someone is struggling, you can help them with the kind of blue bits of the puzzle, like the outside bits of the puzzle. You can help them with, we'll talk about it. These are the different support services that are there. What are your struggles? Is it related to your work? Is it your family? You can talk about it. That might help them to work out, okay, this is kind of what's going on for me. I can sort of see the outside of this. But they have to be the people who put the big bits in the middle. That's not your job. That's their job. And they can get a lot of strength from knowing that you're there and you can support them. But never worry that you need to fix this person, because that's not what it's like. It's about they should, over time, hopefully hear from their friends, maybe family, if they're lucky enough to have that background, or whether it's the support from professionals or something they watch, whatever it might be, that might help them. And they themselves start to build more of this kind of puzzle, but they know that you're there to help them. And that is your role in it. You're not the professional to give them that support. You're the friend.
Okay, so just a follow-up question to this, like as a friend, so let's suppose I help a friend, I let him know that I'm there for him, but then what's the point when you realize that he definitely needs professional help? Like you can't just keep telling them that I'm there for you and things like that, right? So what is the point when you take them to a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
I think there's different types of, I can't know for sure that there's different types of support. So even if someone goes to a psychiatrist or psychologist and they get to that point where they need that, and it's of course important to do that if that's what's required, you still don't need your friend during that process. Your friend is still useful. Your psychologist or psychiatrist is what, an hour appointment a week, maybe? What happens in the other time? Who's around you in the rest of that time? And a lot of the time, the information they give you is stuff that you take in the time. Obviously you talk to them about it, but a lot of the time you have to take it home with you, right? You think about it in different times, and then it might go in and you talk to someone else about maybe what they've said, or you keep it to yourself. But you also want to be able to remove yourself from all this internal chat that has come from the information they have given you. Where's your friend to be able to just chill out? They are also important. So I think it's remembering that, that can professionally help them, but they're a human being. They have different facets to them. And one aspect is they need professional support, but the friend is still important, 100%.
So basically, these psychiatrists or psychologists will never know them personally. It's the friend who knows them personally. So
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that one is more important than the other. Like I'm not here saying we don't need the psychologist. Of course we do. They're trying to give them professional help, but you still need your friend. It's like, okay, if your ma or someone has to go, she hurts her leg and she has to go to the doctor, right? The doctor gives her medication for her leg. She comes home. The doctor's not at home with her. It's you. So you want to be there, look after her, talk to her. Maybe she's actually doing okay physically now. She needs to just rest her leg, but she needs some company. So she wants to just talk to you. She wants you to support her. Maybe she's feeling a bit blue about it, a bit low because she can't do anything. She's just sitting here. It's the same thing. You have to try your best to understand it in the same way as you understand physical health. It's exactly the same. You wouldn't then just say to your mom, okay, bye. You've been to the doctors now, but you're fine. Nay, she needs you to be there to make sure she's okay. It's exactly the same concept.
That's really helpful. Okay, moving on. Amidst the pandemic, the concept of mind has been spoken about quite a lot. How does one indulge in that kind of meditation or sense of awareness and being?
Yeah, okay. Mindfulness is a massive topic. And again, I think it's either episode 2 or 3. My team are going to hate me for not remembering, but in series 2 there's like 8 episodes, so forgive me for not telling you exactly, but in series 2 there's an episode that's about mindfulness for children. I speak to this mindfulness teacher called Misha Clark, and it's not, the stuff that she says isn't just applicable to bache, it's applicable to adults too. It's just stuff that she says it's good to think about when you're younger and all these things. But what we're saying is that mindfulness is about learning how to be present in the given moment. And you can practice mindfulness in the most normal ways. It's not just about, oh, I must download this app and I must sit here with my candle. You can do that if you want, but that doesn't help everyone. So mindfulness is trying to find ways to be present. Now, I found to try and practice that, and as she was also saying in this episode, which you can hear more, like I said, on the on the Instagram and Spotify and everything, is she's saying, okay, try and find an exercise that is small where you can try and be mindful in that time. So I said to her, okay, I have a weird one that helps me, which is small, because you have to start small. You can't start going, I'm going to be mindful for an hour. No, who could do that? So you brush your teeth. Okay, so you stand there, you brush your teeth. Being mindful is trying to quieten the chatter in your head and just focus on what you're doing. So you look in the mirror, you can feel it, whatever, you just watch yourself and you just try for a couple of minutes to just be in that moment of you brushing your teeth. And that is an act of mindfulness. And then you can try and use that in longer periods of time. So maybe you're reading and you're trying to absorb yourself in the book, and that's trying to help you be mindful and be present in that given moment. Now, I think that there are ways of trying to apply mindfulness to these normal activities, like we were saying in that first question, where you might be somebody who, because traditionally, people say mindfulness can also help you in ways such as meditation, because you're, taking some time to be present actively. There are loads of apps that are really good for that. I used to use Headspace loads, which is one of my favorites, which is really good. But again, that doesn't work for everyone. I have a twin brother and he hates meditation. He's like, doesn't help me. I'm like, that's fine. You find what helps you. So you can try it, but maybe it's not for you. So, so yoga helps some people. Maybe that's not for everyone. Everyone's different, whatever. But it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be the yoga meditation and that. Nay, it can be, you pick the thing that works for you. It can, it's just, mindfulness is a very scary way of saying, learn how to be present. It's just a terminology for that. So, the best way is to try and apply it to those interests that already help you. So let's say, you love to play the guitar or something. You're like, okay, or you're an artist or whatever it is, whatever that activity is for you, you're just trying your best to stay in that moment. And for me, what helps is putting music on in the back. That is something I find really useful. So I'm just relaxing. I can just put on some gamme. My head is just absorbed in the song. And that helps me to stay in the present kind of space. So it's just finding that thing that works for you.
Right. Find activities that engage you, basically.
No, it's not meant, mental health is not meant to be some scary thing. Oh, we have to now go and read a big book and understand that we must meditate. Nay, you can if you want, but it's a very normal thing. It's just something we need to work out and help ourselves and help everyone else. But that's it. There's no other, stuff.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Your page, All Things Mental Health, uses art to exemplify the importance of mental health, whether it's illustrations or your monthly playlists. What do you think, what do these creative outlets really do for our generation's mental health, especially in the pandemic? What would you recommend to someone who's looking to express creatively, and how can they get started?
Yeah, so I think your creative outlets are the things that help you the most, I would say, in different ways. And like we said, that doesn't always just have to be the given things of art, music, the things we grow up thinking, oh, that's the creative stuff, right? It can be something completely different. Maybe it's cooking for you, and being creative with your food is something that helps you with your creative outlet. So I think it's just again, creativity is something you can apply to anything, maybe you're a mathematician and you really love maths and you want to have a go at coming up with some new idea of your own that's not linked to a particular project. There's a way of trying to apply it more practically in some kind of creative way that you were intrigued about. Maybe you've seen something outside and you thought, how can I apply this kind of idea or equation to understand this? Or bringing in economics to understand something more, there's more kind of real in the social sense of some sort of society-based thing. So it could be anything, and maybe that for you is great. It's really creative and it helps me understand something. So I think it's going in times when, especially in like a global pandemic, your creative outlets, they don't go anywhere. They're things that very much stay around. It's kind of like baggage you kind of carry with yourself, but good baggage. And it's just things that you keep going with that are always there to support you. And like I was saying in that first episode with Natasha, and she talks about navigating your mental health in episode 1 of series 2. And she says it like, you have find your pillars of support. And when she said this to me, I could just see those kind of, those like Greek columns. And I was like, oh, this is kind of what I see these sort of pillars as. And I think your creative outlets can also help you in that same way. So I think they can help you in this time because they absorb you into something that is very different to your outside world. As we all know, especially in India at the moment, it's horrible. It's not a nice climate. It's very worrying. It's very anxiety inducing. You worry about your friends, your family. There's a lot going on. So you want to try and find the things that also can help you to look after yourself, because it's not selfish. Those things also help other people, because if you can try and ground yourself and help yourself, go to these activities sometimes, half an hour here or there, whatever, when you then go back to have dinner with your family, or you're just hanging out with some friends or whatever it might be, you're trying to someone on Zoom, you'll be more present and more in that moment to be able to be there for other people because you've had that time to look after yourself. I think your external state is very much a reflection of your internal state. they're very much connected. It's not about selfishness and family. It's actually they connect much more so. So I think it's being curious is the key. I think working out for you what are your interests, be creative in them, and build them in as much as you can. And when you're busy, sometimes those things are like, how do I do that? Where's the time, man? Someone help me. Like, where is this happening? And for me, I came up with this idea that you can try and build in 30-minute slots in your day. So maybe you have a really busy day, right? You've got classes all day, you've got some assignments, you've got a lot going on. So you're going to go, okay, I haven't really got that much time today, but I'm going to try and take out 30 minutes for myself. And I'm going to turn my phone off or put it on silent or just something, whatever. And I'm going to read my book for 30 minutes. Or I'm going to listen to some music for 30 minutes, or I'm going to whatever, just to help you. And maybe the next day you have more time, so you build it up. But it also makes you realize, how do I fill my 30 minutes? What am I interested in to want to do in my 30 minutes? Which then helps you work out what are the things that you're interested in.
Right, that is really helpful. I'm definitely going to try that. So it's about finding what interests you, and then, if possible, find a circle of people that have similar interests, sharing it with them, and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. We've seen that you have a podcast where you talk about a lot of mental health related issues. In light of that, how much of an impact something as simple as talking about mental health have in highlighting its importance?
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, I kind of got interested in this sector because I wanted to help people. So one, it was okay. Wow, mental health underpins everything that you do. And two, well, then if we all have it, we need to help each other, because if we don't help each other, then that person can't really function. They got a lot going on and it underpins them, and we want to help each other navigate it. It's not like, oh, there's something wrong, you need to fix it. Sometimes you do need that professional help, like we said. But even when you get that, it's about learning how to navigate it. There's nothing wrong with you. We all have different chapters in our lives. That's fine. You have to just normalize that. Be curious. What is it saying to you? What is this hard time trying to say to you? So back to what your question was saying, because of that interest in wanting to help people, you start to see this domino effect of what you say or what you start to learn that can then help the next person. One of my favorite examples of this was in series 1. We spoke to this musician, and his name is Tom Gulliver, and he's a white British guy, and he was telling me about the gunner that he plays. He's a guitarist, and the stuff that he does, how he performs in different places in the UK and all these things. And he was saying that there was this one time where he was feeling quite tense and anxious, and he wrote this song about his anxiety that he was experiencing. Then a couple of months later, he gets a little performance in some restaurant or some bar or something, and he plays this song to this audience. And afterwards, this guy comes up to him and he says, "You've just pinpointed my own anxiety really well. I've been having a struggle trying to work out what's going on with me, and you've said it so nicely. And because I've engaged with it creatively through your music, it's really helped me understand my own space." So for Tom, that was the expression of what was going on for him. It was probably quite cathartic. It's something that helped him to understand himself, but also it helped someone else. So I think it is about trying to create that space to be open about it, because it will help somebody else too. Let's say, someone who's listening today goes away and they might work out, 30 minutes, I decided to do this tomorrow. Maybe you then speak to your sister or your mom or your friend or something, and you say, I did this thing where that might help them to go, maybe I'll go work out what my thing is, and they go and help themselves. So it's about creating that conversation. And I think that links back to my whole kind of philosophy in this sector as well, which is all about you have to work collaboratively to be effective. There has to be this sort of united voice. It's not about sort of division and people saying different things. It's trying to bring conversations into the center together and coming out more so, learning to be curious, be a sponge, to learn from other people. The creating that united voice is really important. And that comes from openness, from learning, from realizing that someone else might have to say something that's, you can learn from them. And this is what that podcast has taught me the most is series 2 in particular, all these like leading mental health professionals, researchers, thinkers, activists. I'm still finishing my master's. I've just got this trustee role, student minds. I'm very young. I'm still learning. So it's about learning from each other. And I think being open helps you then, and finding that creative stuff too can also help you.
Okay. How has your involvement in all these initiatives helped you grow? Do you feel that by helping others, you're also in a better headspace now?
Yeah, I think so. I think in life you kind of hope that you can find something you enjoy, right? So maybe a dream aspect is trying to find something you enjoy with your job, and you're trying to see something you want to do or whatever. Even if that's not the case, maybe it's something you like to do on the side of that. You find these activities and interests that you have, and they really help you get through whatever. But when you start to find the things that you're passionate about, it makes you feel much more grounded, and you feel like you have a sense of belonging and happiness and all those things, in a sense that not that other things don't give you that too. So of course your family and your friends and all those things, but you see a sense of self-growth and meaning coming from the work you're doing. So I think for me, I had a bit of, if I'm really honest, I had a bit of a change of heart with what happened. So I was initially I was at this other university in the UK called York, which is like North England, and I was studying there. And Student Minds, this charity, this mental health charity in the UK, they try and help students, also doing some more global work now, but primarily when it was set up was trying to help students in the UK. But their resources, which you can find more information on our page, and their Instagram is at studentminds.org, which is all there. So they have great resources to help students. And they have these different kind of societies, like this one here, different societies that function on campuses to help students in that particular university. So maybe, what's going on in York is different to what's going on in Oxford for students. So we need to find ways to support them. So I ended up being the president, like you said, of the York one when I was there, which is really rewarding. And I knew that mental health was something I really cared about and was interested in. But I didn't realize the extent of how much I cared about it, or the interest, until it went away. The presidency ended in a year. Then I was focusing on this architecture work I was doing for my degree. And then I was like, where's this mental health stuff on? Because I think I really care about this. And in a way, this is kind of more important than this. And now I'm here doing this master's, and the master's is in modern South Asian studies. So I'm doing my architecture specialism, which looks at Mughal architecture, and also some things at the moment that BJP reconstructions in India architecturally, what is that doing? So lots of different stuff related to architecture. It's also got aspects of economics and history and philosophy. Great, loving it so much. But what I realized is actually, this mental health work is what I care about the most. And, maybe this master's is more something that there's some tools it can give me, but it's more about this. So I think it's given me a real kind of insight into realizing that it's something that will always be the kind of main calling for me, I think. And having this podcast has allowed me to creatively do that and really work with a team to do that. And the trustee role is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You have to, as a trustee, there's 10 of us. I'm a 10th responsible for this charity. I'm only 24. I don't really know what I'm doing. So you're learning, right? You're still learning. So, it's that, but it's rewarding, and it's learning not to be scared as well. My mama used to say to me, he still says this to me, he goes, you have to learn how to enjoy the fear. And this is very true. It's not about being scared by it. It's just learn to be a bit curious. What is it saying? And my dad always says to me, if you're nervous about something, it's also because you care about it. So it's learning how to respond to it differently, as best you can. And I think the intensity of the masters at Oxford has taught me a lot about that, which I found very rewarding.
Great. It's great to hear about your experience. Okay, I think it has been a wonderful session so far. Really informative. I learned a lot of things. Now, what we did is we yesterday circulated the Google form where we asked people to put up questions that they wanted to ask you, and we got a bunch of replies. So
Amazing.
now go ahead and ask those questions to you.
That sounds good. Let's go.
Okay, so now basically the audience interaction session has started. We should The audience in the meet as well ask some questions later on in the meet. So please wait for your chance. Uh, okay, so the first question is, lack of motivation has been one of the biggest hurdles to start anything that I want. How can I stay motivated and consistent with the things that I want to do?
That's a good question. Okay. I think one thing is first not being too hard on yourself. It's kind of going back to this sort of robot human thing where when you're not motivated, what is wrong with me? What is going on? What am I doing? And you feel really bad and all these things. And actually, again, I think it's those times are, if anything, probably more helpful than the times when you're more productive in terms of what you learn about yourself. There's obviously a lack of motivation for certain reasons, so maybe that is the first thing, is to try and be interested in what is it, like we said, what is it trying to say to you here? Are you lack of motivation maybe because of what you're trying to achieve at the moment isn't really providing you with the motivation? So maybe your work for your degree or something is just a bit long and a bit of a drag, and it's not providing you with the motivation you need. Maybe also you have to remember we were living in a pandemic. Maybe the intensity and the anxiety around is also making motivation really hard, which is also fine. But I think something that helps me, which I think this is kind of where it came from originally with the motivation thing, is to kind of apply a lot of the stuff we've been saying today to help you get out of this sort of zone and then become a bit more motivated over time. So those interests that you have that we were trying to say about pinpointing, they naturally motivate you. They're things you just like to do, right? Whether that's watching a film or talking to your friend or reading or whatever it is. So the first thing that I would do is work out what those different things are for yourself and then build them into your day to help you motivate yourself in the day. So let's say we're going to scrap today and we start tomorrow. So let's say you have a task you need to do for tomorrow and you need this motivation to complete your task for tomorrow. So maybe the way of doing it is what I like to do, which I still do every day, is I sandwich my day. So I start my day with something good. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to read for a bit, or I'm going to listen to some Gane or whatever. And then I'm going to do some work for a little bit, have some lunch, do some little bit other things in the day, but then use my 30 minutes. They're like little cards you could just chuck in your day. So I'm going to do some work, 30 minutes, do a little bit more, 30 minutes, whatever. Break it up. So you make it much more human. So you go, okay, I'm going to do 45 minutes of some work, and then I'm going to little break, another thing, little break, go for a little walk, and then you end your day with something. But what helps me, which motivates me, which of course is very different to every person, so this might not be helpful for you because I can only go off what I know, but I like to end my day with something really strong. So maybe that's like I'm going to spend some time talking to a friend, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do something, whatever that you look forward to. So in the day, it can help you to motivate yourself, knowing in the evening I have this to do and I can switch off from 6, I'm done, I'm doing this, and that's fine. And also not being too harsh on yourself. Start small. If you've got big tasks, start with, okay, today I'm just going to do this amount of it, then this amount, and maybe the next day I'll do this amount. But you start realistically, and that might help you.
Absolutely, that definitely answers the question. So basically, you divide your task into sections and you make sure that you don't completely zone out, and at the same time, you don't put a lot of pressure on yourself.
For sure. Yeah. And then guys, use my Saturday idea, like put your brain in the freezer one day, do it. That also motivates you because on Saturday, I'm doing nothing. And that's a great feeling.
How can we deal with childhood traumas or traumas of the past in general?
Good question. I think that on that note, it's probably more beneficial to talk to different things. I think one might be, if you're someone who's quite open with their friends, maybe it's quite a nice thing to start and talk to them about maybe what happened for you, and they can talk to you, and it's a nice way to open up some dialogue. If for you that's not something you like to do, that's also fine. Everyone's different. It might be better then to, if it's something you really would like to learn how to deal with a bit more, like I was saying, working out in your university or your local area, what is there to help you. See if you can tap into some stuff there. So talk to somebody in at your university who maybe looks at kind of making sure students are okay and does all that mental health and well-being based stuff. See if you can talk to them. The other thing is making the use of phone lines and resources that are out there for you. So that's why I would super recommend looking at studentminds.org, because like I said, whilst it's based in the UK, there are things on that website, especially one aspect of their website is called Student Space, that allows you to text someone. So a professional is at the other end, you can text them for free, and you have a little chat with them, you can phone them. But obviously now the whole world is so much more connected. Of course, you too can bounce off of that wherever you might be. So that might also help you, and they might give you some more professional advice of how to help you with trauma. Yeah.
Okay, I think someone from the audience raised their hand. I think they have a question. Okay, Akshay raised
Yeah,
his.
it's me, Akshay here.
Okay,
Uh,
please go ahead if
so
you have that.
yeah, so to the first question, I actually had a follow-up question. My doubt is, where do you draw the line between procrastination and prioritizing your mental health? Because there are times when I don't feel like doing anything, like just lie on my bed and just chill. So yeah, my question is, where do you draw that line?
Okay. You have to realize that maybe you're also allowed to have times where you slide on your bed and do no work. That's also okay to do. Okay, and this is why I think if you have like some time where you're basically making that official in your week. You're going, I'm going to have Saturday to do that, and that sometimes can help you in the week when you're procrastinating and feeling a bit like, oh, I just want to just sleep. No, I know on Saturday I can really do that. So that's kind of might help. But also, procrastination and helping on mental health are quite different things. Procrastination is something that comes about for lots of different reasons. There's a lot going on, a bit of stress. You're feeling a bit lethargic and tired. There's a lot happening. You can procrastinate for lots of reasons. Looking after your mental health is just as important as, if not, in some ways more important, because if we're saying that your mental health forms a foundation for you, it's your literal building blocks before you do your work, before you speak to your friend, it is a basis for you. If it's that important, then it has to be taken just as seriously as other things that you do. So, for example, like I said, you build in these 30 minutes to help you. Now, that can help you also in that procrastination time. Maybe if you feel like you're procrastinating a bit, trying to swap that around and go, okay, I obviously don't want to work right now in these 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to be trying to be productive in my procrastination time and go and read my book or go and do this. And I'm still relaxing. My body, obviously, maybe the procrastination is here because I'm a bit exhausted. So I can do that. But I think it's it's drawing that line of also allowing to have time in the day where you can just lie on your bed as well. Maybe sometimes you need that too. For me, unless I have a deadline, I do try and stop working. Even when I have a deadline, I try my best to try and stop working by the evening, so I can just literally have proper like alarm set time and relax fully and just chill, because your system needs that. So building it in also helps you, and it probably make the rest of your day a bit smoother. It won't just randomly come up anymore because you know it's there for you to be able to chill.
All right, I think that definitely answers Aksha's question. We're getting some more questions in the chat box from the audience. I'll read it out for you. As a BTech student, what can I do to improve mental health awareness and encourage more people to take help? Can you share some ideas on how to do that?
What was the first bit? As a what student?
As a BTech student, basically Bachelor's of Technology.
100, yeah, fine, okay. Yeah. So just if you can just repeat it for me once more. So you said, as the student, say the connection went a bit weird. Sorry.
What can I do to improve mental health awareness and encourage people to take help? Can you share some ideas on how to do that?
Sure. So I think it is. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I think it's a couple of different things. Maybe one, the first thing, which is probably kind of a given at this point, is work out the things that help you. Do this 30-minute thing. Tell a friend. Might help someone else. That's the first thing. The next thing is there might be stuff out there that helps you. So, for example, maybe you tune into a podcast, or you tune into a particular show, or you read a book or something. Maybe that helps you, and you can pass that on as well. But another thing is also making the most of your online space, especially at the moment when it's we can't do as much in the normal time. So we're in the physical time even. So what maybe might be a good thing is maybe there are certain pages that help you, that you find useful. And like I said, you guys are welcome to check out mine and see if there's anything on there that might be useful, you might find helpful. You might end up sharing something, maybe off that page or other pages that you find useful. Put it on your story. It might help someone else, and it creates a bit of a dialogue like that. One thing I do is I have a couple of different pages I sort of look at quite a lot, whether that's some other podcasts or some other mental health based things. And sometimes I send them directly to some friends who I know might be having a bit of a difficult time. And I read it and I go, oh, this sums this up really well. And I'll send it to them. And they'll love they're really thankful when it comes through that, oh, this has been really useful. So just spread the word. But first think about, instead of just spreading any old stuff, think about what's out there that you're genuinely finding useful. And then thinking about creating this domino. Yeah.
Okay. Question that has come up is, how far do you think listening to positive affirmations daily will help and affect on us, and how useful are they really?
Yeah, this is a good question. If I'm really honest with you, I don't find them that useful. Like, I find them a bit useful, but if I'm really honest, that's not what really helps me. Like, I might see it on Instagram and go, oh, this is a nice idea. Jello, this is nice. That's kind of it. It doesn't help me more than the Jello is nice. So the rest of it is the stuff that actually helps me. And for me, that is the interest thing. It's knowing what helps you. And that I found way more useful. A positive affirmation can be something that it might help you in that moment. It would give a nice thing, maybe it gives you a bit of a share, and you can give it a share. It might help someone else on Instagram or something. But I'm sure I also do know people who find it more useful. So it's very much different for different characters of people. I don't think it's the same for everyone. But I think for me, I like to think of it, how can I be productive for me? If it's very individual, in terms of if you're looking at you and your mental health to help yourself, then it's finding those things that help you the most, which I find way more helpful than a positive affirmation.
So it's basically finding the things that boost the confidence and positivity in you. It can't be the same for everyone.
Yeah. But I don't want you guys to think that you have to now go away and find it. Like, oh my God, I have to now go and find a map and like go and find mental health. Like what? Like, no. If you probably already have stuff that you go to. Maybe you watch certain films, or you like to read certain stuff, or you listen to this kind of music or whatever. So it's something that I do is just to kind of bring it back so you can sort of see it in action more. I'm a Hindustani vocalist. I've been trained since I was about 6. So which I love to do. I'm a massive fan of Bollywood stuff, but also ghazal. Like, I sing a lot. It's one of my favorite things to do. So that helps me loads. I spend so much of my time just singing. And every time I'm in different houses, all my friends are like, oh, you also gig again? I'm like, sorry. So that's who I am. That helps me. But for me, it's good because you can artistically release a lot. It's not, singing doesn't ask you anything. And, I just think this is anyway, just interested in music because you're around it all the time. I'm sure all of us have some songs. I think most humans have certain songs that they can just listen to and sing back to, right? Whether it's like Mahi Veer or something more productive, like anything, right? You have stuff that helps you. So that it allows you just to let any emotion out that might be inside. Like when I sing, it doesn't ask me anything. It's not saying, give an answer to this math equation. It's just asking you to express yourself, and you can just let out anything. And I find it really helpful because sometimes I don't actually know why I'm feeling a certain way. I might be stressed out or a bit scared. I don't sometimes know why. And this is another thing we need to normalize. You don't always need to work it out. You just need to find ways to release it. And over time, you might become more curious and it might become more clear to you what it is. But the release is important. And for me, singing allows for the release the most because you just belt it out. You just boom it out. And for it to be good, you have to focus and hear how it goes up and down. Oh, Shreya Ghoshal, she does this. I need to try and mimic it and whatever. So it's the same thing, right? It helps you to focus your head. It's mindfulness.
Right. We all try to imitate singers and we fail.
Yeah, but it's fun, right? It's good fun.
Yeah, it
helps
is fun,
you.
definitely.
This is what I mean. Something like that can help with mental health. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
oh, I have to go and do nay. You just do what helps you. Make it fun, man.
Right. Okay, moving forward to the next question. Everything is so uncertain right now, and everybody feels a general sense of anxiety, especially among youngsters. How do we battle that, given the situation that we have currently in India?
What a big question. Like, I'm gonna try my best to give some answer to it. I think there's lots of things. I think one is you have to be very patient with yourself and very kind with yourself in these sort of times. There's no other way of saying it. It is crap. It is a shit time. It is. Everyone across the world at different times in their particular country or whatever, it's been really bad, and we all know that. Now, one, you have to accept that sometimes that is a situation, and you do what you can to help the people around you as much as you can, whether that's some voluntary stuff, you go and help, you know, try and give some aid and help with some food with the local people, or you speak to your family, you check in on all your relatives across the country, you do what you can as best as you can do it. But at the same time, in order for that to be productive and that external support and help to be useful, you have to find things that also help you. Like we were saying, they're much more fluid than you think. It's not going, you know, I must, if I don't, you know, keep doing some voluntary work or helping locally, then if I don't do that all the time, I'm useless. No, for that to be productive, you need to take at least a little bit of time out a day, half an hour, to just do something to supplement, to give it a balance. But I think you also have to let yourself feel however you feel about it. You're allowed to feel scared. You're allowed to feel hurt and upset and annoyed, angry, frustrated, worried. That's all okay. And finding the people to share that with. And that's one thing I think with the pandemic is it does bring people closer because you all at the same time are going through exactly the same thing. And, you know, it can probably build a lot more empathy and stronger connections because you are going through the same thing together. So reach out to your people, because I'm sure they'll be just as happy that you've reached out as much as they can probably help you as well.
Right. That is definitely helpful. And we have another question in the chat. A similar question was asked, but then I'm just going to say it. How to let go of the past. We know all we've got is today, so just to live in the moment, but still the feeling of guilt and regret is always there, as we know things could have been different. So if I didn't do that one particular thing, so what should one exactly do in such a situation?
So there's a book that came out recently that a lot of my friends have read, and I have to say I haven't read it yet. So I've heard this is very good, and I've just ordered it, so I'm excited to give it a read. But it's called The Midnight Library, and it's by this author called Matt Haig, and Matt Haig writes a lot of stuff on mental health. He's very good, and I really like a lot of the things that he says. But this particular book looks at what if I'd used my time differently, and it's about this woman who explores her different lives and what she could have done differently in different times in this book. And it's got a great message about how to be present and comfortable with the things that you are doing. And, you know, he shows you this really creatively. So one, I would recommend this because I think a lot of the answers are hidden in this book. It has a lot of good stuff in it. So that's Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And Matt is M-A-T-T, and then Haig is H-A-I-G. And yeah, so I think that's one thing, but also realizing, I think, you know, there's a couple of things. I think one thing is, you know, you are where you are because of lots of different things that have happened, and being proud of that in the given moment. You know, I think we could all sit here and worry, oh, I didn't do this, or what if I'd done that? I could have been there. I could have been doing that over there, and all these things. You know, you're young, you know, and you've got so many years ahead to do lots of different things. So just because something at the moment might look a bit different to the way that you thought it would look, doesn't mean that it's, you know, it's bad. It's probably teaching you something as well as the next thing too. I think you'll get, if you can, I really think the key is learning best to really engage with the present situation you're in as much as you can, finding the things that help you, really absorbing yourself in that, because you'll probably find more reward in that than you ever thought you could. And actually at the moment, maybe there's more energy taken into worrying about what else you could be doing. But you are where you are because of the hard work and the effort and energy you've put in to where you've got to, and it's not ending right now. There's so much more yet to explore, and that's fine.
Thank you for the book suggestion. People in the audience can consider reading that. Okay, we have another question. Sometimes we go out of control and react in a negative way. We harm ourselves, basically reacting in a negative way. How to cope up with such issues?
What was the last bit?
How to cope up with such issues?
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a hard one. I think everyone's like internal chatter, the like negative conversations that go on in your head are obviously very different to every person. And the only person who knows fully how you're dealing with that is of course yourself. Even if you speak to other people, they can never sit in your head to understand how it works, right? But I think again, I think the key is one, the first thing is not to try and get rid of it. So just let it out your system. Just let it be. I've had times in the pandemic where I've felt quite claustrophobic and my internal chatter is just going a bit mad. Like it's just very negative and it's very, very hard and it's exhausting. Like you go to bed and you're just so tired because it's constantly there with some negative comments. And I think what it's about is going, okay, I am going to just let that out my system. It's okay. Let it, it happens. And that's the most important thing is to let it go. And then, as the time goes by, you become more familiar with it. Like I was saying, learning to then be a bit curious about it. What is it trying to tell you? So for me, I was feeling quite claustrophobic. So I needed to try and change my space as much as I possibly could. So I tried to do that and I tried to make things a bit different. And that helped me a lot. I started to feel less claustrophobic. So, yeah.
Okay, that's really answers the question. Okay, I think Amal raised hand from the audience. Amal, you may proceed to ask the question if you have something.
Okay. Hey, am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
audible.
Amal, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. One of the questions I had is like, I've been trying to, do some things to help myself, and like you have good days where you feel like things are working out, like you feel motivated, you feel like you want to talk to people, but some other days you kind of feel like every text message feels like an effort, and like you kind of are not sure if like what you're doing is it really working out, because like it's a very slow process. Yeah. So is there any way like you can? I kind of find it. Sometimes I wonder like, are things really working out, or is like always up and down, up and down, up and down? So is there any way you can track whether you are making progress or not? Because it's such a very small and slow change that it kind of becomes hard to see uh, what direction is it taking a turn, like in overall what
Mm.
are things moving in. So uh, is there any way one can keep track of how things are going in one's life as an overall picture?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for that. I think one way to do it is maybe the first thing is to maybe write a little bit. So you don't have to. I don't really like to call it like a diary because that's not really how I kind of see it. But one thing I do is what can sometimes be useful is to go, okay, let's say you each day, at the end of each day, maybe you spend a bit of time and you maybe bullet point some things that you've done that day. And maybe you put next to it how you felt about that thing that you're doing. So you can see your progress like that. So maybe you start to go, okay, this particular thing I found really difficult. Okay, maybe tomorrow I'll try and do something to help with that thing. Or maybe you had a really fun 30-minute thing you did and that really helps you. Oh, okay, I'm going to do more of that as I go, whatever. And you can track it and see how you're doing. And maybe make a little mind map and you think about the different outlets that help you. So like we were saying, all the different interests, right? And maybe then as you start to try different ones in different days, you can track and see what it's like by giving it a little note down and see how you respond to it. But I think also it's like I said, that kind of human aspect. It's just natural to have days where you just it's everything is too exhausting. I know for me when I've got a lot going on, I can be very rubbish with replying to people. And it's not personal. I just, by the end of the day, when I have some time to breathe, I've been looking at a screen all day. The last thing I want to do is to reply. And I want to reply when I have more energy. And that's also fine. So it's learning how to communicate that as well sometimes and saying to people, at the moment there's a lot going on. I will be back. I just need a bit of time just to get through the different things. But yeah, I'm tracking it like that. And maybe even also saying out of 10, how are you feeling at the end of that day? 10 is brilliant. You're feeling great. 1 is just really shit. And you can decide, and maybe then that way you can see, and maybe that also helps you work out what of those interests are helping. Do they bump up the mark? Okay, I'll do them again tomorrow. And maybe that also helps you see over time how it's going.
That was a great question, Amal. And Great answer as well. We shall keep track of things that can really help us. Okay, moving on. The next question is how to recognize the reasons behind depression cycles and how to deal with them.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's a kind of a curiosity-based thing, but I guess there are lots of different reasons, like we said, as to why you're feeling a certain pressure. Maybe is it a home situation? Are you feeling pressure because the degree is really difficult and that is causing you pressure? There's different aspects. But one thing might be, a lot of the time that's hard to communicate to people, because sometimes saying you're finding, you're experiencing a certain level of pressure because of somebody else. Maybe it's because of a friend is constantly, asking you things for your degree, or you're at home, everyone is asking you, what are you going to do next? What's your job going to be? And there's a lot of pressure. And you don't want to then share that sometimes with people because you don't want to hurt them. You worry sometimes about that. So there's nothing wrong with taking a step back before you approach people with things. Maybe you do need to turn to your friend to say to them, listen, can we not talk about all these things sometimes? Or Ma, I will get to my job soon. Just let me just focus on this. But the first way of doing that is maybe remembering that, you are your best support, right? And no one is there watching you. It's just you doing your thing. So you could just sit there with some paper and go, okay, I'm feeling pressured at the moment. Now, if it's just me looking at this piece of paper, this is not going anywhere. What would I honestly write down here that maybe is causing that pressure? No one's looking. It's just for me. And later I can put this piece of paper away, so no one looks at it. And you can write the things that you might think, are causing you a bit of pressure. Maybe the first few days is you just being really open about that and getting it onto paper. Maybe the next few days, you put another arrow next to the different ones and you go, okay, if it's a person, can I maybe talk to them? Is there something I could maybe say? Maybe you make some notes about that. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself. Right. How do I break down my days? So I've got some stuff to relax. Let me work that out. And you do it like that. But you at the end, you are the only one who can help yourself with that. And there's something very beautiful about that. There's something very nice about no one else is there watching. It's you doing your thing with your bit of paper. You don't have to worry about other people looking at it. So being honest about it. The piece of paper is not judging you. Go for it.
Being honest to ourselves is the key, basically.
For sure.
Question in the chat. As a teenager, I've never shared a good relationship with my parents, but I wish to improve it. How can I do that?
What, can you repeat it again with what was it?
As a teenager, I've never shared a relationship with my parents, but I wish to improve it. How can I do that?
Okay. I think over time, your relationship with your parents sometimes can also change as well, right? So I've definitely found that as I've gotten a bit older, my relationship with my parents has become more, of course, they're always going to be like your ma and your dad and whatever. So like, the dynamic might be a little bit more different. So in the sense that maybe they become more like your friend as well, certain aspects. No one is saying, that the mother and father aspect doesn't go away. Of course, it always stays. But you might start to talk about other things like, jobs or your pursuits and your interests and your friends and all those things. But I think, again, you can use different activities to maybe help with that. So maybe think about, again, I would do, if it was me, I would do the same piece of paper I did, where I would go, okay, if I'm honest, why do I think there's issues here with this relationship? Is this what's going on? What kind of happened before? If you want to be curious about past things, maybe making a little note of it and you can have a little thinking. And if you want to do it like that, and then you can add an extra arrow and then maybe go, okay, what can I do in the present time to maybe help? And maybe sometimes it takes a step of the beta to also make some of the difference too, which I think sometimes we will sometimes forget. We can spend all day blaming your parents, but your parents are human beings as much as you are. And one thing I think we need to learn as we grow up is how to take your parents off the pedestal. Of course, you should always respect your parents. It's important to respect your parents. But at the same time, they're human. They will also make mistakes like you. And some of their mistakes will be reflected onto you with their dynamic with you. They are human beings as well. And that is an important thing to realize. And maybe it's like, okay, maybe there's some awkwardness sometimes talking to your parents about certain things. Are there ways that maybe you can try and do that first to bridge something? Maybe you can say, oh, Ma, this, and then see what she says and make it small and start whatever. Maybe she needs you to help her open up too. And that might help.
Also, I feel since we have a generation gap, that parents will look at things differently. We have a different perspective. Do you think that also is the reason why the relationship changes over the years with our parents?
For sure. I think, of course, we're very different to them as well. But I think also your exposure as you grow up becomes different. You start to become more independent. And even if you're somebody, who I think it's a typical, it's a desi thing, isn't it? You really care about your family and you're going to want to go back home and either if you work somewhere else, you want to visit as much as you can, or maybe you go back and live home for a little bit, whatever you do, right? You're going to care about that. But I think the more you become curious about things that aren't related to your family, like your degree and your friends and whatever else is going on for you, your jobs and relationships or whatever, then you start to discover new parts of yourself. You develop as an entity outside of your family too. Then you go back into it a little bit different. You're a bit more mature. You've got another life going on as well. And I think that is important to remember. It's that's meant to happen, right? You're meant to grow up a bit and then start developing different lives, and they'll always be there. But I think as you start to, their self-growth really is the key to that. And I think it comes back down to what we were saying about interests and working out things to help you, because you want to learn how to build yourself, how to hold yourself up. And you can go back to your family, but you know how to look after yourself too. And if anything, if you can do that, you can also deal with a lot of family stuff sometimes. Maybe you can go back into home environments that are a bit different to adapt to. It's hard after being studying away for a long time, but you found ways to help yourself. So there are things you can continue to do, even if you're at home. You can find a sense of escapism through your own activities that you're doing.
That's really helpful. Okay, next question is how does one remain present whilst living in an intensely multi-codependent relationship? Can you give some tips on handling depression due to relationship failure?
Okay. I think it's how you view relationships is really important. So if we're saying relationships on kind of like a romantic note, on that note of stuff, of course, for me, one thing I've always tried to tell myself, which has helped a lot growing up, and also it's for sure come from experience when this was not the case before. I don't think you know the answer straight away. The answer in anything relationship based, whether it's friends, your parents, or something romantic, you learn from what's happened before to improve situations. You fall out with a friend, you learn how to make that relationship better, and hopefully it gets better over time. Romantically, is trying to see that a romantic relationship is an addition to your life. It's an add-on to other things. Now, of course, as you get older, it becomes something that becomes more intertwined with your life. Maybe you marry this person and all these things and blah, blah. But you should try and approach it in that healthy way where it's something that is an addition for you. They're there, they support you and all those things, but you're both separate entities and different people, and you come together through this connection, which is really nice. But you are still yourself with your own things. And I think the reason that I found that my kind of connection with relationships and things have been quite healthy is because before all of that happened, I was curious about how to look after myself first, and then understand that it's this addition to that. So you have to prioritize yourself as well. And of course, it's important to be there for your partner and all those things. But like I said, you can be there for them more so if you learn to find ways to also help yourself too. So, if it's something you're struggling with codependency and it's a lot going on, there's a lot of burden and all those things, the first thing I would say is to, sometimes it's scary to work out why this is happening. And it's just maybe sort of having that kind of creative detachment from it can maybe also give you some answers. I always find if I have my Saturday chill day, or if I spend some time in the day to relax, like I was saying, through some 30-minute bits or whatever, then sometimes I'm, going to sleep, brushing my teeth, whatever, and some answers sometimes will come to me because I've just relaxed my head. And that sometimes can also just help you. So.
Thanks, that's really helpful. Okay, we do not have any more questions from in the chat. If someone from the audience wants to ask something, you may raise your hand, or you may put it in the chat. Okay, nothing has come up. this has been a great session so far. I've learned a lot of things personally. Thank you so much for taking time out.
No
for this.
worries.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. Yes, there are no more questions.
Oh, no, there's one. Is there a movie, album, song you consider a turning point in your life? Wow, kya baat hai? What a question. Okay, what would I say? Okay. I think for me, it's more artists I found helpful for me for different moods and stuff like that. So I think, you know, you're probably going to laugh at me because it's very old school, but like I said to you, I'm a Hindustani vocalist. So ghazal, for example, as a concept is something that I really like. And whether that's listening to them or learning them or whatever, it's been really good. And of course, you have all your great people out there to listen to. You know, you have your real old school, like your Jagjit Singh and Chitra, and but you also have a more modern stuff like Coke Studio, where stuff gets adapted and changed and stuff like that. I think for me, that's been something that I found really helpful to kind of delve into. There's a lot of kind of meaning there that's been really nice. But also, what else? What do I think has been something sort of useful for me otherwise? Yeah, I think that's kind of for me, that's really the key. It's music, I think, is something I find the most interesting. And meaning behind it, understanding that, what is it trying to sort of say? How can it help me? But I find it very soothing. So I think, yeah, types of music, I guess. And I guess the ghazal as a form is something I find interesting. So yeah.
You know, we all have that movie or that song that we go back when they're feeling down. I don't see any more questions. I think that question was also DM to you. Is there any other question that you can see?
No, I think that was.
Yeah, I don't think there are any more questions.
Oh, there's one at the bottom. One question. Don't mind me asking this. Can you sing a song, guys? What a question. That's not a question. That's like a request.
No, that's a nice question. Actually.
Yeah. Okay, I can sing. I was saying like the first couple of lines or something for you. So the first song I ever learned was it was a Jagjit and Chitra song. So my parents, when they got together, they were first very good friends first, and they came from the time where you know, this records and stuff was still really obviously popular, and now they've become popular again. But when they started to see each other, they realized, oh, we have the same records, and one was like typical like Jagjit and Chitra stuff. This is how old school I am. I'm that kid who got trained in Hindustani vocal and loves Jagjit. So anyway, I was singing a bit of this ghazal that I learned, the first ever one I had to sing in public to people, which I still perform to this day, which is one of my favorite ones. So chalo, let's do that. Okay. तुमको देखा तो ये ख्याल आया, जिंदगी धूप तुम घना साया, तुमको देखा तो ये ख्याल आया. There you go. I'm just gonna give you 2 lines. There you
go. That was really short. And 2
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to whoever asked that question. That was great. We thoroughly enjoyed this session. I hope this was fun for you as well. It was a really informative session. And since there are no more questions, I guess all things must come to an end. All good things must come to an end. I think we can move on to end the session now. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, guys, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for inviting me and all those things. But also, if you have any more questions as you go, you're more than welcome to message. If you follow at allthings.mentalhealth, there's like 3 of us who run this team. I'm always checking the messages. If you have anything directly for me, you can just address it to Aneeska, and you can ask things anytime. There's no worry. I think, as we all know, there's still as someone who's also, you know, I'm British Indian. I spend a lot of my time in India. Obviously now I can't as much, but there's still a cultural thing where we're trying to battle this and find ways to communicate. So I don't want you to think that this is the end of your curiosity. You can, of course, you know, message and check out the podcast as well. That's a way of being a bit curious about your mental health, but not in this patronizing way. These are really interesting people who share really great advice. And any questions, you're more than welcome to message. But yeah, keep this dialogue going. Don't feel like you're alone with it. You can always drop me a line. I'm always there to help.
If you don't mind, one question just popped up.
Andy.
Okay. I want to know about the mindset of people nowadays of showing that everything is so incredible in their lives, but in reality, it is falling apart. Why have we become so fake?
I think it's because on social media, you don't put this rubbish stuff, do you? You don't put on there, oh, today was a shit day. You don't do that. You put on the nice picture of you and your friend and whatever. So I think we have much more showy culture now, and also quite a superficial culture, because social media is quite superficial if you think about it. One thing I sort of realized recently is when I was at York before this other university, I did lots of different things. I was involved in lots of different stuff, got to know lots of people, really fun, really rewarding. The podcast first started there, so lots of stuff, it helped. But when I came out of that institution, however many people you know, you only come out with your core people. Let's be honest. You don't have time all the time to chat to everybody, and consequently, it's the same for them. Everyone has their core knit of people. So really, it's about not getting too wrapped up in the superficial stuff, because it doesn't really hold that much meaning. Let's be honest. And one thing I've been saying to my friends recently is, I have to say, I've probably found my time at Oxford more socially rewarding than I found my time in York, which is weird to say because it's been a pandemic, right? But the reason I say that is because here you could meet people for like a walk or something. And then when it was bad, all you could do when you were allowed to leave the house again a little bit, you can meet someone for a walk. Now, you had to be very aware of who it wasn't just big groups of people. You had to think about, who is this one person I want to hang out with and whatever. So now I find that I've managed to build stronger connections because I've developed more one-on-one connections, and it's got a lot deeper, a lot quicker, because it's only ever been one-on-one for a very long time. And even in times of the pandemic where you're not really going out, which makes sense for safety and all those things, you're ringing your people. You're having more one-to-one conversations with those people. It's not as big groups. It might be more focused, right? So then what happens is, when you then go into your social environments again, where you can hang out more so and stuff gets a bit more normal as time goes on, you go into those environments with a lot closer friends, and you're doing those social things now, but like the inside out. Instead of going, I go to university, loads of social activity, hope to find some close friends through those big social activities, come out with your close friends. Here you're finding your close friends, you go into the bigger social activities, they hold way more meaning for you because you've got your dost here who you've hung out with so much, and this person is here, and it's so much nicer. So you hold more meaning. So I think, sadly, the world is a bit superficial, but just don't absorb yourself in that too much. You don't need to look at it all the time. And to be honest, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors for people. There might be someone who's putting on great stuff on Instagram, but actually they might be struggling a lot with their mental health. We don't know. So, keep an eye on trying to keep yourself as authentic as you can, with your strong connections with your people. Worry more about that. You don't need to absorb yourself in the superficial stuff.
Right. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I think we can wind up the session now. Ma'am, anything else to say?
No, that was it, guys. Feel free to check
Okay.
out the Instagram stuff is at allthings.mentalhealth. Like I said, feel free to drop messages. And big thank you again for having me today. And more than welcome to chat to you guys anytime. Just message and I'll be right there. We can plan this whenever.
Thank you so much for taking time out for this. Thank you so much for the audience, everyone who joined. We highly recommend you guys following her page, All Things Mental Health, on Instagram, and go listen to her podcast. They're all fantastic. Yeah, that's it, I guess.
And thank you so much too for all your questions and time and effort too. It's been lovely to chat to you. You've been amazing.
It was wonderful to have you. The pleasure is all ours.
Thank you, guys. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy.